Good evening to everybody. Welcome to another edition of Libertas. This is Tonino Habana. Tonight, we have a special guest who has a very interesting life story which revolves around martial arts and filmmaking. He's a writer, director, actor, and producer of not only local films, but actually international films. And he's got several film awards under his belt. He's also an MMA and Muay Thai champion, or a former champion. And he also is a coach for MMA in China. He's Filipino, but he transferred to the States, moved to China, and now has moved back to the Philippines. I'd like everyone to welcome Vincent Soberano. Good evening, Vincent. It's nice to have you on this show.
Good evening. I'm honored to be in your show.
What I didn't mention a while ago was you started out with the Philippine Military Academy, and you studied there for 4 years.
3 years.
3 years. And so you had this idea to become a soldier.
Right. That was my dream. As a kid, ano talaga, pangarap ko yun magiging sundalo. And that was everything I've ever wanted. Pumasok ako sa PMA, and while I was a cadet in PMA, my family basically had the opportunity to move to the U.S. So parang walang choice. So eventually we moved to the U.S.
So in the U.S. you took film.
Yeah, in the U.S. we were in San Diego. And in Southern California, where it's like basically where Hollywood, the home of film, the mecca of film. And I just felt like it was, my talents from ever since I was a kid, my talents were like pointing towards film. So
in the early days, what films were you involved with, and in what roles? In the early days.
In the early days, I've always been involved in action films. My first job out of film school was with Stu Siegel Productions on a TV show called Renegade with Lorenzo Lamas. And even though I worked behind the camera, but it was basically an action show, an action series. And I eventually worked on other stuff like Vanishing Sun, where I started working in front of the camera as a performer, as an actor, But I would flip-flop between behind the camera and in front of the camera.
And then the interesting shift in your life and in your career is you were doing quite well in the States, and then you decide to go to a new market, a new area, in a land where you didn't know anyone. You moved to China.
Yeah.
And what year was that, and what made you move to China when you had a good life in the U.S.? I mean, normally people from China go to the U.S. It's not the other way around, especially at that time, right?
Yeah. At that time, that was 2005. I was actually working in a software company at that time, and they opened the Chinese an office in Beijing. And while I was there, I saw, it's like, wow, this is like the next frontier. It's like everything's going crazy and fast, and Beijing and China as a whole was growing so fast, and it just felt like there were so many opportunities, ways to make my dreams come true. And I wanted to get back to film. I had gotten out of film for a long time, and I had a lot of ideas on how to go back to filmmaking, and I felt that being in China, I would be able to do that. So, so that's why, while I was there in 2005, I decided I'm gonna take a shot and stay here for a little bit longer and try to pursue a career in film.
When you landed in China, did you know how to speak Chinese?
No, not at all. Yeah.
So you're a Filipino, lived in the States, and then you decide to go to China to try your luck in film. You didn't speak a word of Mandarin.
No, not at all. Yeah, I didn't.
That must have been
it was
quite
crazy.
an adventure for you. It was crazy, yeah?
Yeah, it was crazy. But at the time when I first got there, I was working for a software company. So it was kind of like, I was supported by a staff. We had translators and all that. But when I left, when I resigned from the job and I went on and and started doing my own thing, started my own business. Among other things, started teaching martial arts. People were like, "What are you doing? You don't even speak Chinese." You know, so I thought,
Ito yung kakaiba eh. He's a martial arts expert. You probably started here in the Philippines.
yeah.
Pumunta sa America, didn't speak a word of Chinese. He goes to China to teach martial arts to the Chinese.
Yeah.
And then at that time, they had a booming film industry already. I mean,
Right,
the
right.
Chinese film industry. And not only did you start teaching martial arts, but you started to coach them. You started to become a champion yourself in Muay Thai and in MMA. And actually, we have some of his old fights. I'd like to show it because it's quite interesting, and maybe you can walk us through those fights. I mean,
Yeah.
bihira yung ganon, Filipino na champion sa MMA based in China. Let's show one of the old fights of Vince.
This is even before China. This is in the 80s and this is more like in 80s and 90s.
So this is before you went to
90s.
China.
Yeah, this is in the U.S. Some of them are in Japan, but this was in the 90s before I went to China, when I was fighting Muay Thai and shoot fighting, which is the sort of the predecessor of
So you
MMA.
were a champion in Muay Thai at that time.
Yeah. I was a champion in Muay Thai. You know, so I fought all over the world. Muay Thai has always been part of me, even as as a professional in my career. It was my hobby, but it was also my passion, and I fought professionally. As a matter of fact, it helped me go through college. It helped pay my way through college.
Okay, now this is the one where they.
This is in the 2000s. I was here. I'm already like 45 here.
Wow.
Yeah, still fighting. Yeah.
All those knockouts.
Yeah, this lots of knockouts. Yeah, this was the King's Cup in Thailand. Yeah.
That's amazing. So, what were the difficulties that you had when you moved to China? You didn't speak a word of Chinese, so you learn. Not right now. You're very fluent in Mandarin, right? You can
Fluent
speak
enough. Yeah.
fluent enough.
Yeah.
And then you decide to teach martial arts in China, where they have their own style of martial arts. How difficult was that?
It was very difficult. You know, people told me, they said, "Wait, Vince, you're gonna go to China. You're gonna go to the land of martial arts and teach martial arts to the Chinese." And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Well, you actually need some therapy. You know, so that's what you need. You don't need to go to China. You need to go to a therapist. You know." And I told them, "Look, I feel that I can contribute. I feel that there's something I can do." At that time, when I was in China, Muay Thai wasn't really recognized yet. Then there wasn't anyone really teaching legit Muay Thai, and MMA was virtually like straight out of YouTube. There was people in China at that time, just in 2005, who were practicing MMA from.
Was there a lot of resistance from the Chinese?
There was a lot of resistance. When I opened my gym, my first club in China, I probably spent the first year and a half fighting people off. Like, I had challenges, like almost every day.
So it's like one of those, the Chinese movies say, my
yeah.
Kung Fu is better than your Kung Fu.
Pretty much. I can tell you right now, almost every day, there was always someone coming in through my doors and wanting to try me out, wanting to see what I'm all about, kind of thing. I spent, I wasn't even thinking about competing again, because I had retired from fighting for about 10 years. But then people started coming in, wanted to spar, wanted to test me out, and then I said to myself, and of course I'm like beating these guys, and I'm thinking, well, if I'm doing this for free, I might as well go back and start doing this for money. So I decided I'm going to go back into the ring, get out of retirement, and start fighting professionally again. So, and that's when around 2007, I got back into professional fighting.
So Vince, basically you gained their respect. It's a very important thing in China, being
It's
an
very
old culture.
important.
You have to gain their respect for them to ask you to teach them.
Right.
And when did you feel that you had a breakthrough, that you were already, that you could already, offer your services as a teacher or as a master?
It's all about product. So over time, I started producing like really good, my students are become really good fighters. They're winning competitions on their own,
So did they have, may mga basic martial arts training ba sila when they go to you?
Oh,
Or
meron. Actually, ang mga Chinese, they're, they have this style called sanda. Ano yun, parang kickboxing, Chinese
Yes,
kickboxing.
oo.
Parang Muay Thai na na boxing and kicking, meron tuhod, um, pero may takedown sila. So it's pretty much like parang almost MMA na. Kaso walang jiu-jitsu, walang wrestling, but may mga takedown sila. So malakas yung nila, yung mga sanda fighters nila. In fact, those are the guys na parating pumapasok sa gym ko na pagte-testing sa akin.
And then, how did filmmaking and your opening a gym come into play? I mean, there's one thing, gusto mo magturo ng martial arts, you were a champion sa Muay Thai and MMA, you had students in China, and then all of a sudden you're doing action films.
Yes.
How was the transition? Ano nangyari? How did you transition?
Well, I originally came to China. I stayed in China after I quit my software job, kasi gusto ko to pursue film. And I had this idea at that time. This is in 2005. I had this idea of doing movies for mobile phones because I was in software engineering.
Oh.
I knew that I understood technology, and I knew that there was a way to stream movies into the phone. This is before they started doing this kind of stuff. I was teaching 3G architecture in computer science in China, so I understood how we could actually stream movies into a phone. So I was pushing.
So you had another career also, which was really software.
Yeah,
and IT basically.
IT,
and then in the meantime, you were also doing MMA and Muay Thai. We'll be going for the break. We posted the telephone numbers if you want to text. Kung gusto niyo magtanong kay Vince, by the way, he's from Bacolod, from Negros, doon siya lumaki. Gusto niyo mag-text, sabihin niyo lang kung taga saan kayong galing. And we'll be coming back after the break with a very interesting guest, very interesting topic. Don't go away. Welcome back to Libertas. This is Tonino Abana with our special guest Vincent Soberano. A while ago, he already narrated a couple of interesting things about his life. He moved to China not knowing anybody, not speaking a word of Chinese, and then he wanted to teach martial arts to the Chinese. And for him to do that, he had to fight 100 people more or less, or just to convince them that he's an expert in martial arts. And he started his gym there, and then came out of retirement, fought in MMA and became a world champion again in MMA. And then he went into his passion, his love, which is actually filmmaking.
Right.
So how did this happen? Who did you connect with first so that you could do filmmaking in China?
Well, being a filmmaker, a lot of filmmakers can attest to this. When you're working in this industry, most filmmakers, actors, even directors, they always have a part-time job, or they always have a job on the side that'll keep them going. And when you're trying to pitch a film or trying to get, trying to get your script produced, you've got a lot of time in between. You gotta pay the bills. You have to, you have to make a living. So for me, even back in the States, when I was working in the film industry, in between I was teaching martial arts. Something I enjoy, something I love since I was 10 years old, and something I felt I was good at, good enough to be able to teach. So when I was in China, I couldn't speak Chinese, so it's not like I could go find a job easily. But the one thing I can do is I can teach martial arts, and I can stand my ground, and I don't have to really speak Chinese to teach martial arts. It's just you just show them the moves and this and a few like body language and all that. And over time I learned too. I learned like some basic words. My students would kind of teach me some basic words. So yeah, that was how it basically transitioned. I just needed a job at that time. I needed something part-time while I'm pushing my film career. Yeah, and then it ended up my martial arts career in China. My business ended up growing. To where I was essentially one of the pioneers of MMA in China. I ended up coaching the top MMA fighters in China. The first UFC fighter was my student, Zhang Teichuan, and then right now one of the top UFC fighters in China are pretty much all my students.
That's really remarkable. Mga manunood, this is a really remarkable story. Isipin ninyo, Filipino, pumunta sa China para magturo ng martial arts. Para mangyari yung gusto niya, kailangan pakita niya na magaling siya, so maraming nag-challenge sa kanya. Sparred more than 100 times just to prove na mas magaling yung martial arts ninyo. And then after that, ginawa siyang coach sa MMA ng Chinese national team. Is it the Chinese national team or the Chinese professional fighter?
It's a professional fighting
Yung
team.
mga professional fighters ng China. And I think one of those fighters is right now a contender or a champion.
He's a world champion, an MMA world champion, and then he was taken in by the UFC. He was signed by the UFC. He is now the top-ranked Chinese fighter in the UFC, Li Jingliang. Yeah, he's a very exciting fighter.
That's him right there.
Yeah,
right?
he fights. Yeah, he fights in the main card now in the UFC. So he's really the top guy now. In fact, in Asia, arguably now, he's probably the best Asian fighter in the UFC.
You do this because you needed to sustain your life in China.
Yeah.
Kasi ang love mo talaga is to do films.
Yes. Yeah.
Either as an actor, director. And so, how did you break into the Chinese film industry?
Well, funny thing is because I was teaching MMA, everybody knew me in China. Basically, when it
That
comes
was the
to
entry
MMA,
point. Huh?
Yeah, that was the entry point because my name was pretty much there. Everyone in the martial arts world kilala ako doon. So ngayon may mga students ako na mga artista na gumagawa ng pelikula, mga producers, directors, something like that. Tapos may student ako na siya, action director ni Jackie Chan. At one point, niyaya nila ako, pwede ka ba mag-acting sa isang pelikula ni Jackie Chan, which is yung Police Story. And that was in 2013, 2012 yung shooting. At that time, matagal na ako hindi nag-shooting. Since basically I stopped doing film since around 2006. Nag-dedicate na ako sa martial arts. And plus I was fighting professionally too. So wala na akong time for film. Around 2012, binigyan ako ng opportunity to be in a Jackie Chan movie.
Which movie was that?
Police Story.
Police Story. Yeah.
So,
what role did you play dun sa Police Story with Jackie Chan?
I was a cage fighter in the movie.
Okay.
So it wasn't a big role, but it got me back in front of the camera, and it made me realize, my God, this is how can I live without film?
Yeah.
I have to keep doing this. So I was in this movie, and that was a catalyst. This movie kind of woke me up. Being on the set every day on this movie, na realize ko na talagang kailangan ako bumalik sa film. So after that, I looked for opportunities, actively looked for opportunities to get back into filmmaking. And I was pitching stories. Nag-attend ako ng mga film festivals, mga film markets. Nag-meeting ako sa mga film producers. napipitch ako ng stories. I talked to a couple people at Village Roadshow. Tapos sabi ko sa kanila na I'm Filipino and I'd like to maybe bring some Filipino cinema into, into the international stage. Tapos especially action. Sabi nila wala na yan. Philippines wala nang ano na yan, wala nang lumalabas na action films that's international worthy. So parang it became a challenge for me kasi in all my life I'm always the kind of guy na you give me a challenge, be careful because I'm gonna take it, so I can't turn down a challenge, so that's kind of like, especially if it's something I love. So I made it my point that I'll find a way to start making action films in the Philippines that I can market abroad, that will be accepted abroad, so that was my thing. But surprisingly, my first film in the Philippines was not an action film. It was not even a narrative film. It was a documentary about the yung tungkol sa Butanding.
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 The sea cow.
Yung whale shark.
A whale shark. Yeah,
whale shark. It's about
Dugong pala yung ano.
It's about yung Butanding tourism,
right,
and how some places, they exploit, the Butanding.
Where was this shown?
This was bought by National Geographic.
So it's a National Geographic film now. Wow. And did it win any award?
Yeah, it won a lot of awards all over the world.
So you wanted to style yourself as an action director, filmmaker, but your first award came from a documentary about whale sharks.
Yeah,
how interesting is that?
Yeah. It was something that that was interesting, for me and for the producers of the movie, and it kind of like, it was the only way I can get back to the Philippines and do movies kasi wala akong connection sa Philippines Ang tagal ko na sa US and then China. So wala talaga akong kilala sa Philippines. So gusto ko talaga na gagawa ng mga pelikula dito. Wala akong kilala, but through the whale shark, through this documentary na ginawa namin, nakakonect ako sa mga really good professionals based in the Philippines. As a matter of fact, yung DP namin, yung director of photography namin, is actually Japanese, na nag-base na dito sa Pilipinas. Ang galing talaga. So he was one of the first guys na I thought I can work with in my next films in the Philippines. And ever since, we've worked together in on my other films.
Please just text your comments. We cannot accept calls, so mag-text lang kayo from where you are. And I know some people are trying to call, but please text us. This is a very interesting discussion with a very interesting international Filipino who's seen it all in the film industry. Vince, you opened a stunt school in China, or you were part of a stunt school in China.
I was just part of a stunt school.
How important is the stunts or the stunt school or the stunt training in making a good action film?
Oh, very important. I mean, stunts is like it's the core of an action film, and I'm not just talking about people falling off buildings. It's about people actually, stunt fighters, that kind of thing. When you have an action scene, nowadays viewers are very intelligent. Alam na nila yung fake na fighting, and yung hindi maganda at saka yung maganda kasi very innovative na ngayon yung mga martial arts films, mga action films So kagaya the way Thailand innovated their fight action. Tingnan mo, tumatama talaga yung mga suntok, yung mga sipa, ganun. So
what's your idea of a good action film, of the ones that you've seen? What comes to mind to me is Crouching Tiger. What comes to mind?
To me, an innovative film, something that changed the landscape of stunt fighting was a long time ago, was Ong Bak.
Ong Bak,
yeah. When Ong Bak first came out, it changed the landscape. I mean,
that was
people may
earlier than Crouching Tiger.
Yeah, earlier than that. Tapos, because before that, lahat ng mga action is usually kung fu, yung mga kung fu-ish na mga action. And it was getting old after a while. Now, it's the same kind of thing.
Well, mas makaluma naman yun sa Philippine side if you're still looking at the old Jess Lapid, Little Lapid, I mean, FPJ.
Yeah.
I mean, with due respect to them, they started action. They were the pioneers of action films here.
Yeah.
But now the audience is looking for something more realistic,
Exactly,
more
yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
And
they want to see technique now.
Yes.
People actually want to see technique. You know, like movies like Ong Bak, makikita mo talaga na yung artista, siya talaga yung gumagawa ng ano niya, ng mga moves niya. You know, so, you know, people like to say, alam na nila, everyone knows that they're stuntmen.
Yes.
You know, and that they're stunt doubles. Now, yung mga artista, especially Hollywood stars, may mga stunt double, mga yan. So, it becomes more of a novelty now na makikita nila yung artista mismo gumagawa ng stunts niya. And not just simple stunts, siya talagang lumalaban sa mga fight scenes.
So for your films, do you prefer people who have martial arts experience, basically?
Yeah, absolutely.
And physically very fit.
Yeah, physically fit and solid martial arts background.
What's the level of hit? I mean, I know it's make-believe when you do an action film, but at the end of the day, you really get hit, right?
Yeah, in my movies, people get hit.
People get hit.
Yeah, people get hit.
So in your film, it's just not just sound effects. Na pag tinamaan, boom. It's really they really get hit.
Yeah.
And that's part of the business.
Yeah.
You don't cheat the angle.
We don't cheat the angle. Yeah. People get hit. But the thing is, what I do is when I look for stunt fighters for my movies, I don't go to like a stunt organization. I go to a martial arts school. You know, so I go to a martial arts school, and it's easier to teach a martial arts fighter how to do stunts than teaching a stuntman how to do martial arts. You know, and martial arts fighters intrinsically, I mean, by their training, they can pull their punches right on impact. You know, like every day they spar. Every day they spar, they throw a punch, boom, and then they stop like right there on the spot. You know, so they can do that. So konting ano na lang, konting masahe na lang. Magamit mo na yun maging stunt actors because marunong sila mag-fall, marunong sila mag-break ng fall nila. They know how to stay safe.
In making a film, of course, acting is also important. I mean, it's not just the action that happens; it's also the acting. So, are you able to find good martial arts people that can act also, or
that is the problem?
That's the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem.
They know how to fight, but they don't know how to act.
They either know how to act, but they can't fight, or they're either good fighters, but they can't act. And in all my films, it's always a struggle to find the perfect combination that I want na artista na talagang matindi sa martial arts or martial artist na magaling mag-acting.
So you came back from China, from the US. You were challenged. Sinabi kasi nila na wala na yung acting, wala na yung action film sa Pilipinas. It's a dying industry.
Yeah.
You were challenged and you wanted to bring international quality action films into the Philippines.
Right.
And we're going to go for the break. And Vince is going to talk about very exciting films that he's going to show this year. International quality, Filipino-made action films. Don't go away. This is Libertas. Welcome back to Libertas with our special guest, Vincent Soberano, who's an MMA champion, Muay Thai champion, taught martial arts in China, became a coach of international martial arts, MMA fighters, international filmmaker, was involved in filmmaking in China, and now, because he was challenged, he brought his brand of filmmaking to the Philippines to upgrade Philippine film, especially in the action industry, in the action film industry. There's a text here from Davao Oriental, Eden Bernante from Davao Oriental asking if kontrabida bida ba si Mr. Soberano?
Sure, I can answer that. Right now, bida, but actually, to tell you the truth, I've been looking for a role as a contrabida. I really enjoy, you know, and it's a challenge for me na magiging contrabida din. So for now, sa mga films ko, and for some other films na ginawa ko, medyo bida ako.
And then there's another text from Surigao City. Are there martial arts scholarships available? Or I guess they want, because maybe they come from a poor area, or is it possible for them to learn martial arts without paying?
Yeah,
So-
meron. Actually, I've heard of an incentive um, to promote, martial arts sports like taekwondo and all the stuff to, to the rural areas and to, so there will be some initiatives
Yeah.
probably this coming year or next year.
Well, I'd like to show the audience your trailer. It's for the film Trigonal, and
Yep.
then maybe we can discuss it. This is going to be shown in
September 26th.
September 26 po. Abangan natin yung Trigonal. Ito yung trailer ng Trigonal by Vince Soberano.
Another year, another goal. What's next for you, Jacob?
The game, it's always evolving. Somewhere in the world, there's always something to beat.
There's a guy named Jacob Casa. I need him in my show.
Jacob, I really think you should stop fighting already.
Our boss is holding a very special fighting event. You've heard of the Trigonal, right?
Yeah, that's a myth.
Well, it exists. You fight for whatever cause you desire. In the end, you fight for whatever cause I design. Dreams get you nowhere. You should first focus on staying alive. Relax. It's going to be an exciting night.
It's a little bit about this film. I'm excited to watch it. It's showing starting, kailan ba when will it hit the theaters?
September 26th.
September 26.
Yeah,
It will hit the theaters.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's a very unique film, action film. It's something that's never been done, never been done in Philippine cinema. Is something like this, like a tournament, martial arts tournament action drama. There's actually, from what you see, this movie is not actually just all action. There's actually a love story. Merong romance dito, may suspense, may thriller dito. So it has a lot of elements in the movie. Pero yung bakbakan, talaga.
Talagang
Yeah.
totohanan,
Oo,
nagkakasakitan.
bakbakan. Yeah,
I realized nandito rin yung yung fighter mo from China. He joined your film.
Yeah, this is his movie debut. Si Li Jingliang, I convinced him to do this movie. And
Can you tell us a little bit about the female lead, Sarah Chang? I heard that she's also a martial arts expert.
yeah, Sarah Chang is actually she actually starred in my other movie with Monsieur del Rosario. She's Asian American. She's Chinese American. Ano siya, wushu champion siya. She was a member of the U.S. wushu team. She was a national champion in America, and she was at one point ranked number 5 in the world.
Wow.
At saka artista siya. So mahirap maghanap ng ganyan ng artista na maganda siya, marunong mag-acting, at saka marunong magbakbakan din. Tapos ito siya, wala
And she
man-
came out in several Chinese films,
She's
right?
been in
Martial
several
arts,
films,
several
yeah.
international Chinese films.
International films, not just Chinese, but Hollywood.
Films as well.
Yeah.
What about the local actors and actresses like Rian Ramos and the others that you work with?
Yeah. So by putting people like Sarah in the movies, in my movies like Monsieur del Rosario, Ian Ignacio, guys like those who are really good in martial arts, I'm able to bring in people who are non-martial artists like Rian Ramos, and being surrounded by martial artists, she picks it up. I also picked Rian because not only that she's a great actress and she's beautiful, but she's also very athletic. So para sa akin, kung nasa environment siya na puro martial artist yung nakapalibot sa kanya, madali lang niya ma-pick up yung ang mga moves. Ang daming nagtuturo sa kanya, maraming nagtutulong sa kanya. Lahat ng mga stuntmen namin, mga black belt in this, black belt in that, and so madali siya matutunan. So the fact na athletic siya, that was very important. That was very
Do you think this will set a new level for martial arts or for action filmmaking in the Philippines? This new film of yours?
I hope so because, until now, a lot of people yung tingin nila, pag sabi mo martial arts film, they think, yung kung fu. They don't take it seriously, because obviously, wala pa sila nakita na ganito na quality na talaga na very realistic yung moves, very technical. In fact, you watch a lot of the moves in this movie, you can actually learn. It's like a martial arts instructional movie. At the
Well,
same
we all
time.
know about Monsieur being a Taekwondo champion.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he's the Philippine Taekwondo champion, now a congressman. Now let's go to this book. I mean, you make films. You're MMA champion. You're an actor. You're a director, stuntman. You have a martial arts school in China. You train MMA fighters, and now you came out with the book.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the book? And it's quite interesting because it's 50 Fit and Fighting. So obviously you're already the golden
Yes,
age,
yeah.
but still very fit.
Yes.
What made you write the book?
It's funny because I was at a seminar actually, and I was at a fitness seminar. And there's this one point of the seminar where, where, of course, people knew my age, and they're like, wow, you're at the time, parang, I was 48, and people were like, wow, you're in such good shape. You should write a book, about how did you stay in shape and how did you continue fighting until now. So it wasn't until I was about 49. I made it a commitment to write this book before by the time I turned 50. To give at least ma-inspire din yung tao na to stay healthy and fit.
Give us, magbigay ka ng ilang tips about this book. Ano bang nakalagay dito? How would you advise yung isang tao na who's turning 50, turning 40, to preserve their physique?
So what I did is, with this book, I broke it down into elements na you make into your lifestyle. Because mahirap and for everyone, if you're like an accountant who's in the office all day or whatever, you're an office worker, mahirap talaga to stay in good shape. It has to come from inside of you. It has to be something that you really want to do. So, but to make it easy para sa mga tao niyan, mga regular people that work in an office, that have other jobs, they don't get a chance to work in a gym like I do. There has to be motivational factors. So, first motivation is you find a sport na mahilig ka.
Okay.
Well, whether it's badminton, or or volleyball or martial arts, at least nag-enjoy ka ng activity mo, and then you commit ka sa to that activity. Second is nutrition, so you have to pay attention to what you eat. Lahat na na kinakain mo, that's very, very important. Tsaka yung mga supplements mo. And then the other thing is relationships. Find yourself in a relationship or friendship or a group of people na are also into fitness. That's why when people come to me when I was teaching in my gyms in China, people come to me and say, okay, we'll pay you I charge like $250 an hour for private training. So tapos magte-train sa akin, tapos magko-complain sila, bakit ang hirap ang mahal-mahal ng private training, nagte-train ako sa iyo pero hindi pa rin parang hindi ako motivated, hindi regular yung training ko. Kasi sabi ko wala kang environment eh. Sabi ko if you join a group class in a fitness gym or martial arts gym, it's way more effective in terms of getting fit than taking private lessons. Kasi when you're amongst people who do the same thing you do, it becomes a social thing. It becomes a social activity, and you keep moving forward. My challenge, because you got to keep up with your friend, you got to keep up with your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, whatever, you know. So find yourself in a relationship or in a community of like-minded people na are into fitness or into exercise.
Wow, time is going so fast, Vince. But before you go, for taking the time out and sharing your words of wisdom with us, I'd like to give you this gift certificate from Vine Holistic Medical Aesthetics.
Thank you.
And I'm giving you two because I know you're going to share one with another person, special someone of yours.
Right on.
So it's
Thank you so much.
they specialize in anti-aging, and they do facials and non-surgical.
I'm gonna be needing that soon.
The other thing is time is. I'd like to take this opportunity for you to give your parting message, and you've shared so much with us tonight. I mean, such an interesting career, and maybe you can share some more with your parting words.
You know, for me, ang feeling ko na, you know, time and life is it's neither short nor neither long, right? But a lot of people don't realize that life is about the process, not about, you know, not about the beginning or the end. Kasi hindi natin ma-change yung beginning of life and ending of life eh. But what we can control is the process of life, you know, the things that you do every day. So para sa akin, as long as I'm moving forward and doing things that I love, you know, love is the biggest strength in the world. Is, you know, you do something that drives you, and that, you know, you do something that loves you. Dire-diretso ka lang. You don't worry about, you know, don't worry about anything else, money, all that stuff. Those are all come when you're doing something that you love, you know. And my mantra in life is keep moving forward, keep doing things that you love to do, and keep loving people. And
Thank you so much, Vince. And to end this show, I'd like to read the last page of his book. Surrendering to age is a sign of weakness. We must use our strengths to attack and nullify any weakness. It's not about denying a weakness may exist, but about denying its right to persist. I'm Tonino Habana with Vincent Soberano, the Renaissance man of film, saying good evening. Thank you to all the viewers. This is Libertas signing off.